Bonjour everyone, this is Wes Wilson from the Lacuda Ojibwe College. Today I'm going to talk to you about managing a budget on Microsoft Excel. So I don't know how familiar everyone is with Excel. It is a Microsoft program used to analyze data. Um, the, there are a whole bunch of different kind of formulas that you can punch in. It's especially useful for managing budgets. It's something that I've used several times on a personal basis, but also on a professional basis. I'm able to track how much funding in my grant is remaining, how much has been spent, where the requisitions are, that type of thing as well. So there are varying degrees of, you know, how this works. I wanted to show you how to do a very basic function. So what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and click into the cell. If you hit the word equal, the equal sign, then you can write the word sum, as in we're going to get the sum of two different numbers. Then you can go ahead and put the parentheses. Say you wanted to know what is 2 plus 2 equal. Go ahead and close the parentheses. You hit enter and it generates it 4. Well, let's say over here you have a number 633. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, I've got over here $25. Well, now you want to know, I've got my starting balance at 633. I've minus $25 because I had to eat some food tonight. You're going to go ahead and try to figure out what that number is. You can, again, hit the equal sign, write sum. Go ahead and take your starting balance, 633. You're going to minus the balance right here, the 25 that you weren't, that's been reduced from your account. Click this button, and that's what you end up with as your remaining balance. These are all hard numbers, so another feature I wanted to show you real quick is how to convert that into money. So that way you can kind of get a better grasp on how, where your money is going. So you can scroll right up here to the top. There's this button, accounting format. There's also percentages if you're quantifying data. There's comma style, so kind of a thousand separator. You can move the decimal point. So if you're trying to round up, you don't really care about the change, but you just want to know the dollars, round up or down. So let's go ahead and hit the accounting side of things. So there you go. So that's what it's going to look like. So it'll actually end up being more of a quantitative thing. Sometimes I like to take the expenses and you can mark them red. So that way you know, okay, this is the positives, these are the negatives, and this is what you end up with. So this is just kind of an example of kind of a budget here to help people kind of get an idea on when you're kind of thinking long-term budgets, what should my long-term monthly budget look like? So first off, you're going to kind of take a look on what is your current savings. If it's, it's could be a lot lower than this, it could be much higher than this, but I just picked this number out just because. What you do is then is you're going to divide, enter a formula right down here, divide that by 12 months. And basically that's saying, hey, with your current savings, if you wanted to help get that, plug that into your, income, you're allowed to have $100 every month from your savings to use on what you need. The wages would just be like, hey, how much money am I making throughout the week? I put about 900. That's just because work-based learning ends up doing roughly $800 for the month, and sometimes it can be, a little more, a little less, but that's typically where we're at. Financial aid award, again, if you're, hey, I'm getting a big refund back, and I kind of want to be able to be smart about how I'm going to use this money, you can do the same formula. This financial aid refund divided by 12 equals the amount of monthly income that will produce for you throughout the year. Program help would be something like, say reaching out to financial assistance or energy assistance, something that will come in to help compensate some of your expenses here. I put this on here. Sometimes I do extension workshops, that's always kind of helpful. It brings in a little extra income, not necessarily something that is uh, part of my I'm not super reliant on it, but it provides extra supplemental income to help get us by here. So the expenses you want to kind of detail out. Here's some of the common expenses here. You got rent, you got cell phones, Wi-Fi, car payment, childcare. Right now, my wife and I are in the process of adopting, so yay! But we don't have any children yet, so that expense obviously will go up someday. Food supplies for family, utilities, savings. That's another thing we're going to talk about in a minute. Uh, OTE would be one-time expenses. Basically, what you're going to do is calculate all the one-time expenses, the things you're only going to spend once a year. So books, when you're going to college, books are expensive. So you're going to put all your books as the whole expense for yearly books, maybe $300 if you're buying them used. You divide that by 12. You total all the stuff out: books, college supplies, clothing, travel, MISC. Total all that out and you divide it by 12, and that's what you end up with for your OTE expense. So then basically from there, you're just going to take your income, you're going to minus your expenses. And if you land in the positive, that's the best case scenario. If you land in the negative, maybe it's something where you're going to want to evaluate your expenses, maybe reduce some areas that maybe you could cut back on, say food supplies, or maybe turning off the electricity a little bit, just cut that expense down a bit. Maybe find some more supplemental income or look for a higher paying job. Um, those are definitely different options. It's definitely something where you want to be in the green, not necessarily in the red moving forward. So this principle is pretty helpful. Using our last example, it is the 50-30-20 rule. Basically, this is it's broken down by some financial experts here, but it's a good way to plan on budgeting, plan on how you're going to spend your money. With the example that we used before, that guy's income was 1576. So according to this formula, he will need to budget 788 for needs. So that's got to cover all of his rent, all of his utilities, his childcare, his food, and transportation. That 788's got to stretch to cover all of that. The wants, which would be things like I'm going to travel, take a vacation, I'm going to buy clothing for myself, entertainment, going out to eat, that type of thing. Savings, which would be, savings, but it also include an emergency fund in case the car breaks, you need to fix it. Also might include paying off debt. So if you have a substantial amount of personal debt, or medical debt or student loans, paying off that debt is kind of a form of savings because you're kind of reducing the amount that you will have to pay off in the long term here. So anyways, that's kind of how you want to structure your budget. Again, if this goes up, so like say he got a higher paying job and now he makes 2,500 a month instead of the 17, all of a sudden all of these amounts will go up with it. So the 50% now jumps to 1,250 and the wants goes to 750. So it's really just a matter of structuring with what you have to fit those particular amounts. Again, no budget is going to be perfect. Some people can only save 10% a month. Some people might only be able to do 15% on their wants and then 70% in their needs. But it's just kind of a good principle to live by. If you can make it work in this formula, that's a really good formula for financial health and wellness. So I just went ahead and did an exercise real quick here. Wants versus needs. I was planning to do this with you in person, but since you're watching the video, that's okay. I'd love to hear your feedback. Some of these are kind of gray areas. Some things it's might not fit either boot. Let's just go ahead and start here. And just as we're going through the video, kind of maybe make a note to yourself. Netflix, is this a want or a need? And it might depend on the situation. During the coronavirus, if we're all in lockdown, maybe Netflix is a good way to pour into your mental health and you're saving yourself a bill to go to see a counselor or a therapist. That might be more of a need in that sense, or it could be more of a want, depending on the situation. Okay, so let's go down next. A car. A car is a need. Maybe a brand new $55,000 vehicle might not necessarily be a need. It might be more like a want. So thinking prioritizing that. Food, fast food. Uh, it can sometimes be a need to eat. Obviously, it's a basic need to eat, but it's also a want. If you pack yourself peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and you pack yourself a, bag of chips and some, a bottle of water and an apple every day, your average meal is going to come out to, if you kind of spread that out and you plan it out for a long term, your average meal is going to be under $2. And you can't quite find anything for under $2 on any menus for any fast food restaurants. So it's kind of, there are benefits to, packing your own food, bringing it with you when you go to work or go to school. But at the same time, food is definitely a need. It's just a matter of kind of being equitable with the funding that you have. Place to live, definitely a need. Definitely a need. Um, Again, it might be something where you might not need the best place to live. You might not need 7 bedrooms and 5 bathrooms and that type of thing. It might be more about functionality and what's going to work for you and your family. And you might need 6 bedrooms and 5 bathrooms, depending on if you have a large family or not. Again, this is the example here with the food. It comes out to average under, $2. Alcohol. Sometimes that just some people might feel like it's a need. It really is more of a want. It's just, yeah. Anyways, that's not necessarily a need. Kids' school clothing. I feel like that definitely could be more of a need. Um, Maybe not necessarily the best clothing. Maybe you can find clothing that will work, that your kids will love, but maybe not necessarily like the most expensive, the highest quality clothing, unless you can fit in your budget. If you want to spoil your kids with that, but I mean, that's totally up to you. It's definitely fine. You can definitely love on your kids and buy them nice things, um, but maybe just try to find something that will work within that budget. You remember the 50, 30, 20, 30%. It's got to fit in that 30%. Uh, Brand new TV. Again, pandemic, it might be more like closer to a need in that sense. But I think for generally a new TV would be more of a want. Same with the PlayStation or Xbox, video games, any of that. And then this brings us into the next slide here. College. Is college a want or is it a need? Let's go to the next slide to find out. So the last slide here, I just wanted to kind of do some calculations and ask you do you think that college is worth it? Right here, down here is the cost of living in Wisconsin. For Wisconsin, this would be the general cost of living. So you got housing at a 1 bedroom, 1 bath apartment is $688. Utilities is roughly $250. Cell and Wi-Fi can be, $90, if not more. Childcare is around $300. Car payments, lower end car payments are around $200. Food and supplies, it's going to be roughly about $100 for the week if you have, family and you're trying to feed them. So then when you total all this out, this is all needs. And in the needs column, you're left with $1,902. $1,921. If you compare that to the formula here, an average high school graduate, if they've got a full-time job, will make roughly $30,000 for the year. Monthly income comes down to about $2,500. After tax, you're looking more like $2,000. And then when you plug that formula in, that means about 90% of what you make will just go right to your needs. There'll be no money for savings. There'll be no money for wants. It'll all be contributed towards needs. And it's a way to function. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm saying it does become very harder. An average college graduate makes between $40,000 to $55,000 for the year, so I put it at 50. And when you calculate this out, this average, it's still 1921, but the needs column has gone significantly higher. It's up to 1666. So if that's the case, you're only short $300. You can make that adjustment here. You could reduce savings to 15% and reduce wants to 25%, and you could still meet your basic needs. Anyways, I'm just kind of trying to point that out so that help you kind of think through some things. College definitely is not easy. It's hard work, but it's an investment, and sometimes those investments will pay off in the long run. And I just encourage you to kind of consider it. If you're already a student, kudos, congratulations, and keep going. Get that degree. If you're not a student, maybe take some time and consider it. Maybe you could take some time to consider, would college be a good fit for me? So anyways, that is all I've got for you today. If you have any more questions on budgeting, I'd be more than glad to kind of help talk you through some, different tips and tricks and things. If you have any questions on Excel, I'd be more than glad to help you with that too. If you have any more questions, please feel free to email me. My email is wwilson@lco.edu, wwilson@lco.edu, or you can call me at 715-634-4790, extension 127. Miigwech, and have a good day.